Alright, welcome back to our next lesson with VB. Today what we're going to do is going to go through and show how we can go through now and work with integers. So integers are whole round counting numbers, such as 1, 2, 5, 32, 1,000,001, -5, etc. Okay, so when we often refer to things like our age, we don't say that we're 15.5 years of age, we say that we're 15 or 16 years of age. So an integer is a really good variable type to try and use. So looking at this problem that we did before, what I'm going to do is we can either do a couple of things. We can either decide to delete the code out, or if you don't want to get rid of that because you think that you'd like to keep this and remember it, another thing you can do is to try and comment your code out. What a comment does is it will go through and make your code not run when the program is executed. So basically the program will look at this information and then skip over it until the first line that is not being commented out. We often use comments, and is a requirement of the different standards that you'll do, that we have good comments to describe the logic of what's happening with our program, but we'll go into more of that later on. Okay, so the first thing that we're wanting to do here is design a program which is going to ask the user for their age, and we do that by saying dim age as integer this time. Okay, and then we're going to use the console.writeLine to ask the question of the person about what their age is. And then same process as before, that this is going to be asking the question, which needs to be in a string, so double quotes around it, and then we're going to expect the person to be typing in the response. This is a really important concept here at the moment. A number of students will expect that this is going to be remembering the person's age. It does not. What this does is it will read in the console what's been typed in, but it's got nowhere to hold it. So the very important part that's needed is where we have the variable being assigned the contents of the read line. So now what's going to happen is that it's going to ask the person the question, it's going to store the person's age in the variable called age, and then if we want to make sure that this is working correctly, we can now go back and write the contents onto our page here. So I'm just going to put the variable age. One of the cool things with VB is that it's going to try and automatically give us some suggestions about the different types of things that we can work with. So for instance, if I start typing in console and it comes up with console, I can just simply skip, type in the E, push the dot property, and it will actually automatically complete this for me. This is called IntelliSense, and it's one of the cool things that a lot of programming languages, or they call it an integrated development environment, provide to us. So in this case, after we've done the console, here are a bunch of things that the console is able to do. Okay, so the ones that we've been working with is writeLine, and you'll notice that it comes up first off. That's because it's the most commonly used method that we're going to have. Anything that you can see with a little pink eraser next to it is called a method. This is basically something that it knows what to do with. Okay, so like a predetermined set of instructions. These other things that you can see with a hand on it is called a property. So for instance, you can make the property of your whole window bigger or smaller depending on these properties. Okay, so in this case what we're wanting to do is we're wanting to actually do a read line. So this is going to display the person's age, give us a pause, and when we run the program, you'll notice here is the program in action now. Okay, so it reads it and then it writes it straight back to the page. Okay, so if you actually want to see this program working a little bit slower, one of the cool things about Visual Basic and IDE is the integrated development environment, is that we can put in these called troubleshooting tools, and one of them is called a breakpoint. So to get a breakpoint over the left hand side here, we left click and it will put this red blob in there. What this will basically mean is that it will start at the top of the submain. In this case it's going to skip over all of these comments because this will not be executed, and as soon as the program hits this line of code, it will put the focus back on this the writing that I've got here now. So I push F5 and you'll notice that it comes with a little yellow arrow now. This is to indicate that this is the part that the VB programming language or compiler is up to running. For me to want to step through each of these lines individually, I push the F10 key on my keyboard. Push F10 and it will pop through onto the next line. So the first line that it does is console.writeLine. Remember that you don't actually get to see that until the console.readline is appearing. So after we've done console.readline, gives it a bit of a pause so we can now see what's going on. Okay, so we're now going to enter in our age, push enter, and then you'll notice that the focus is now back on this window. This is now dropped down to the next console.writeline. If I put my mouse over the variable, you'll notice that it is now holding the age of 37. I can actually go through and put a pin in that if I want, and that'll always be present down the bottom. It's now up to the line which is going to be writing this person's age back into the console. Push F10, it's now done that, and push F10 again, and there is the focus now coming back to the console.readline, which allows the pause to occur. So even though those two lines are directly underneath each other, they are two separate things. Okay, so that is how we can work with an integer. Other things that we want to do here is a little bit of concatenation perhaps. Okay, so I'm going to type in there, so you are, and remember how we joined strings together to concatenate, we push the ampersand symbol. So you are something years of age. Because I want to type in some more writing after that, it's not quite right. It's saying that there's a little bit of a problem. It's got comma or a bracket or a valid expression continuation is expected. You'll notice that this string has got red writing, this string does not. That is because we haven't told it to expect to add more stuff on after our age variable. So we need to use another ampersand. So the and symbol is the way that we can quickly and easily chuck on or build up a series of comments which uses variables and strings together. To make this a little bit more realistic, one of the things that we can do is uncomment this line of code, or these lines of code here, and we can start now building up some more information such as the person's name and their age. Because we know the person's name already from up here, we can go through and ask this to be written to the page as well. Okay, so you are 37 years of age, Mr. Devitt. I'm going to remove this breakpoint and place it, I'll run it through without that first off. Okay, so the first thing that I'm going to do here is type in my name. Hello Mr. Devitt. So in terms of code, we're up to this part here now. Okay, it's given us the console.readline, and we're now up to doing this bit here. Okay, so the reason why there's a pause is because of the console.readline. It's not going to continue until I push enter once more. It's going to now pop down and do this line here, asking how old I am. Push enter. Okay, and you'll notice now that it's up to this line of code here. It's written this, and then it's now given me the pause, which is why we've got the line kind of flashing underneath here. You might notice that we've got some of the strings being joined up really closely together now. We obviously don't want that, so remember what we did before was we went through and hard coded a couple of spaces in there. Okay. To make this a little bit smoother, one of the things that we might want to do is to remove some of these extra read lines so that there's no natural pauses until the very end. Okay, so it's now going to ask the person's name, it's going to receive that name in there, it's going to ask the next question, which is going to be, hello Mr. Devitt, how old are you is going to be the next one, read that in, display this back to the end user. Okay, so let's just try that one more time. Okay, how old are you? Oh, yep, 37, type that in, and then it's got all the information being plugged in there now. Alright, so that's basically working with integers, concatenation, and comments today.